All right, guys, we are on the guided reading section. This comes to us from James Albert Romanceau, titled The Holocaust, published on History.com, January 12, 2003. The word Holocaust, from the Greek word holos, meaning whole, and kostos, meaning burned, was historically used to describe a sacrificial offering burned on an altar. Since 1945, the word has taken on a new and horrible meaning: the mass murder of some 6 million European Jews, as well as millions of others, including Roma, gypsies, and homosexuals, by the German Nazi regime during the Second World War. To the anti-Semitic Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, Jews were an inferior race, an alien threat to German racial purity and community. After years of Nazi rule in Germany, during which Jews were consistently persecuted, Hitler's final solution, now known as the Holocaust, came to fruition under the cover of World War, with mass killing centers constructed in the concentration camps of occupied Poland. We're going to stop there and answer our first stop and jot. You are highlighting the correct answer for both pairs based on the reading above. Part A asks, based on the reading above, what was Hitler's final solution? Was it A, it was a sacrificial religious offering that is burned on an altar? Answer choice B, it was Hitler's plan to kill all Jewish people and other minority groups in Europe and then the world? Answer C, it was Hitler's belief that Jewish people were inferior? Or answer D, it was Hitler's plan to win the Second World War? Some of these might sound correct, but you are choosing the one that is the strongest. Part B, which piece of evidence best supports your answer to Part A? A, the word Holocaust, from the Greek word meaning holos, whole, and kostos, meaning burned, was historically used to describe a sacrificial offering burnt on an altar. B, to the anti-Semitic Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, Jews were an inferior race. C, to the anti-Semitic Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, Jews were an inferior race. Or D, the mass murder of 6 million European Jews, as well as millions of others, including gypsies and homosexuals, by the German Nazi regime during the Second World War. Remember that you are highlighting your answer with the highlighting tool up here at the top. Continuing on. In September of 1939, the German army occupied the western half of Poland, a nation bordering Germany to the east. German police soon forced tens of thousands of Polish Jews from their home and into ghettos, giving their confiscated properties to ethnic Germans, non-Jews outside of Germany who identified as German, Germans from the Reich, or Polish Gentiles. Notice here to the side, a Gentile is a person who is not Jewish. Surrounded by high walls and barbed wire, the Jewish ghettos in Poland functioned like captive city-states, governed by Jewish consuls. In addition to widespread unemployment, poverty, and hunger, overpopulation made the ghettos breeding grounds for diseases such as typhus. Our second stop and jot, I want you to fill in the table below. The question is asking, what is one way Jewish people were oppressed in the ghettos? Your response should start, one way that Jewish people were oppressed in ghettos was by. Take a second and fill in your answer now. Continuing on. Beginning in late 1941, the Germans began mass transports from the ghettos in Poland to the concentration camps, starting with those people viewed as the least useful, the sick, old and weak, and the very young. The mass gassings began in the camp of Belznik, near Lublin, on March 17, 1942. 5 more mass killing centers were built at camps in occupied Poland, including Kłomo, Sobibor, Treblinka, Majdanek, and the largest of all, Auschwitz-Birkenau. From 1942 to 1945, Jews were deported to the camps from all over Europe, including German-controlled territories, as well as those countries allied with Germany. The heaviest deportations took place during the summer and fall of 1942, when more than 300,000 people were deported from the Warsaw, Poland ghetto alone. Though the Nazis tried to keep operations of the camps secret, the scale of the killings made this virtually impossible. Eyewitnesses brought reports of Nazi atrocities in Poland to the Allied governments, who were harshly criticized after the war for their failure to respond or to publicize news of the mass slaughter. This lack of action was likely mostly due to the Allied focus on winning the war at hand, but was also a result of the general incomprehension with which news of the Holocaust was met, and the denial and disbelief of such atrocities could be occurring on that scale. For the third stop and jot, you are again highlighting the correct answer for both parts of the guided reading. Part A. Question. What is the central idea of the final two paragraphs of the reading? Choice A. The central idea of the final two paragraphs is that the Jewish ghettos caused the most damage to the Jewish people during the Holocaust. B. The central idea of the final two paragraphs is that the rest of the world denied the Holocaust took place because they too did not like Jewish people. C. The central idea of the final two paragraphs is that the concentration camps were far deadlier than the ghettos that came before them. D. The central idea of the final two paragraphs is that once Jewish prisoners were moved from ghettos to concentration camps, killing and torture began on a scale that the rest of the world could hardly believe. Choose the answer that best answers the central idea. Part B. Highlight the evidence that best supports your answer to Part A above. Choice A. Quote, this lack of action was likely due to the Allied focus on winning the war at hand, but also a result of the general incomprehension by which news of the Holocaust was met and the denial and disbelief that such atrocities could be occurring on such a scale. Choice B. The heaviest deportations took place during the summer and fall of 1942, when more than 300,000 people were deported from the Warsaw Ghetto alone. C. Though the Nazis tried to keep operations of the camp secret, the scale of the killing made this virtually impossible. D. From 1942 to 1945, Jews were deported to the camps from all over Europe. Make sure you're highlighting the answer that best supports your answer from Part A above. Once you've done that, make sure that you are turning this document in. Again, going up to the blue Turn In button at the top. You cannot and will not get credit if you don't turn it in. Once you've done that, you're moving on to the mastery check. You are using the reading as well as your knowledge about counterclaims to respond to the Edulastic quiz to the question, why might people think the Holocaust was the worst event in human history? You can find this mastery check on Edulastic. It is titled Week 3, Module 1. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.